If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Sharing it with your friends and family helps spread knowledge, and when we help others grow, we grow too. Thank you so much for listening. Let's dive into the podcast. The earliest mysteries and folklore, the Mowing Devil, and early sightings. The year was 1678 when something strange happened in the quiet fields of Hertfordshire, England. A farmer woke to find his oat field transformed overnight. The crops lay flattened in perfect circles, as if some invisible force had pressed them down with impossible precision. But this was no ordinary morning discovery. The story spread like wildfire through the village, growing darker with each telling. People whispered of the Mowing Devil, a supernatural creature that had come in the night to claim the farmer's field. The tale began with an argument. The farmer had quarreled with a local worker about the cost of cutting his oats. The worker demanded too much money, so the farmer refused his services. In anger, the farmer declared that the devil himself could harvest his field before he would pay such a price. That very night, witnesses claimed they saw strange lights dancing across the field. Some said they glimpsed a dark figure moving through the grain with inhuman speed. By dawn, the field bore an otherworldly signature. Crops laid flat in perfect patterns that no human hand could create. A woodcut from that time shows the devil with his scythe working by moonlight among the fallen grain. The image captures something both terrifying and beautiful about that night. The circles were too neat, too precise for any tool of that era. Word of the Mowing Devil traveled far beyond Hertfordshire. Similar stories emerged from other English counties. Farmers found mysterious patterns in their wheat and barley fields. Always the same story, perfect circles appearing overnight with no explanation that made sense. The rural communities of the 1600s lived close to the land and its mysteries. They understood that nature held secrets beyond human knowledge. When crops formed impossible patterns, they saw the hand of something greater and more frightening than themselves. These early witnesses described the affected crops with wonder and fear. The grain wasn't cut or broken, it was bent and woven into intricate designs that seemed almost like messages written in a language no one could read. Village elders spoke of ancient spirits that roamed the countryside. They believed certain fields held power that drew supernatural visitors. The patterns became proof that their world touched something beyond the ordinary, something that left its mark for all to see. As seasons passed and more strange formations appeared, a pattern emerged. These mysterious circles chose the most fertile fields, appearing during the harvest season when crops stood tall and golden. Whatever force created them seemed to understand the rhythm of the farming year. The Mowing Devil became legend, but the mystery it represented was only beginning. The emergence of modern crop circles, the 1960s to 1970s appearances. Something strange was stirring in the English countryside during the 1960s. The world was changing fast. People looked to the stars with new wonder. Space travel wasn't just fantasy anymore. And in the quiet fields of southern England, something impossible was taking shape. The first reports came in whispers. A farmer would walk out to check his wheat and freeze in shock. Perfect circles had appeared overnight, not crushed by tractors or torn by wind. These were different. The stalks bent gently at their base, swirled in patterns that seemed to follow invisible rules. By the early 1970s, the circles grew bolder. What started as simple rings became complex designs. Spirals appeared. Then came rings within rings. Some formations stretched wider than football fields. The crops lay flat in perfect order, as if guided by an unseen hand. These weren't random locations either. The circles seemed drawn to ancient places. They appeared near Stonehenge, that mysterious ring of standing stones. They showed up around other sacred sites where our ancestors once gathered. Was this connection just chance? Many people didn't think so. Local newspapers began to pay attention. Reporters drove out to wheat fields with cameras and notebooks. They interviewed puzzled farmers who swore they heard nothing the night before. No machinery, no footsteps, just silence, then morning's strange gift. The story spread like ripples in a pond. People started watching the skies more carefully. UFO sightings increased around the same areas where circles appeared. Witnesses described lights dancing over fields at night, glowing orbs that moved with purpose, not like any aircraft they knew. Television crews arrived next. Camera operators captured footage that left viewers speechless. How could anyone create such perfect patterns without leaving a trace? No footprints led to the circles. No tire tracks marked the surrounding earth. The formations appeared complete and untouched, as if dropped from above. Scientists scratched their heads. Engineers studied the bent stalks under microscopes. The plant fibers showed signs of rapid heating, as though exposed to intense energy in milliseconds. Yet no burn marks scarred the ground. No radiation lingered in the soil. Each new discovery raised more questions than answers. The phenomenon was spreading beyond southern England too. Reports trickled in from other countries. Always the same story. Farmers waking to find impossible art carved into their fields. Always overnight. Always perfect. Always mysterious. By the late 1970s, crop circles had become more than curiosities. They were puzzles that challenged everything people thought they knew about the world around them. The hoax revealed. Doug and Dave confess in 1991. The summer morning of 1991 brought a secret that would shake the world. Two elderly men sat across from a newspaper reporter, their weathered hands folded on a small table. Doug Bauer, 67, looked at his friend Dave Chorley, 62. They had carried this weight for 13 years. "We made them all," Doug said quietly. "Every single circle." The words fell like stones into still water. For over a decade, people had stared at the mysterious patterns carved into wheat fields across England. Scientists had studied them. Television crews had filmed them. Believers had whispered about visitors from distant stars. But Doug and Dave knew the truth. Armed with nothing more than wooden planks, ropes, and wire, they had created hundreds of these perfect circles. Their tools were simple. Their methods were clever. On dark nights, they would drive to remote fields. Dave would hold one end of a rope while Doug walked in a wide arc, dragging a plank behind him. The wheat bent and broke in perfect curves. Sometimes they used a wire sight attached to Doug's cap, helping him walk in straight lines through the darkness. They had started as a joke between friends. Doug had seen old stories about flying saucers landing in fields. "Let's give them something to really talk about," he had told Dave one evening in 1978. Neither man expected their prank to grow so large. Year after year, they returned to the fields. Each circle became more complex than the last. They added rings within rings. They created patterns that looked impossible to make by hand. The more elaborate their designs became, the more people believed something supernatural was happening. Newspapers printed photographs. Scientists offered theories. Tourists flocked to see the mysterious formations. Doug and Dave watched from their quiet homes, amazed at what they had started. But keeping the secret grew harder with time. Doug's wife had grown suspicious of his late-night disappearances and muddy clothes. The weight of their deception pressed down on both men. When they finally spoke to the press, they brought proof. they demonstrated their methods in a fresh field, creating a perfect circle in minutes. Cameras captured every step. The process looked almost boring in daylight. Yet their confession did not end the mystery. Some people refused to believe them. Others claimed Doug and Dave could not have made every circle worldwide. The revelation had split the world into believers and doubters, but the questions remained as puzzling as ever. The scientific debate and unexplained anomalies. Dr. William Levengood bent down in the wheat field, his instruments beeping softly in the morning air. Something was wrong with these plants. The stalks that formed the perfect circle looked normal from far away, but up close, they told a different story. The nodes on each stem had swollen to 3 times their usual size. These small bumps along the plant stems looked like tiny balloons, ready to burst. Levengood had studied plants for decades. He had never seen anything quite like this. His electromagnetic detector started clicking faster as he moved deeper into the circle. The readings jumped wildly, far higher than the surrounding field. The soil felt different too. When he took samples back to his lab, the tests showed changes in the mineral content that made no sense. Other scientists arrived with their own questions. Nancy Talbot brought a team to measure everything they could think of. They found seeds that had been changed at the cellular level. Some had grown in ways that should have been impossible. Others refused to grow at all. The mystery deepened with each new discovery. Plants inside the circles showed signs of intense heat damage, but there were no burn marks on the ground. The heat had somehow reached every plant without leaving a trace of fire. Critics gathered their own evidence. Dr. Richard Taylor argued that clever hoaxers could create all these effects with simple tools. Microwave ovens could heat the plants. Planks could flatten the crops. Human hands could bend the stems just right. But questions remained. How could people work so quickly and quietly? Some circles appeared overnight in fields watched by farmers. The precision seemed almost impossible for humans to achieve in darkness. Laboratory tests painted a confusing picture. Some samples showed clear signs of human interference. Others displayed changes that stumped even experienced researchers. The plant fibers had stretched and twisted in patterns that looked like the work of intense energy. Magnetic particles scattered throughout the circles added another layer to the puzzle. These tiny pieces of metal appeared in concentrations far above normal levels. Where had they come from? What force had scattered them so evenly? Each study raised more questions than answers. The scientific method demanded proof, but the evidence pointed in multiple directions at once. Some circles clearly showed human fingerprints. Others seemed to challenge everything scientists thought they knew about how plants respond to stress. The debate continued in laboratories and lecture halls around the world. Each side held pieces of truth. Neither held them all. Conspiracies, cover-ups, and the circle spotter phenomenon. Something strange happened in 1991 when Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley stepped forward. These 2 elderly men claimed they had made hundreds of crop circles using simple tools. They showed reporters how they did it. They pressed down wheat with wooden planks and rope. The media called it case closed. But their confession only made things worse for believers. Many circle spotters refused to accept this explanation. They said the men were lying. Some whispered that the government had paid them to come forward. Why would officials want to hide the real truth about crop circles? The conspiracy theories grew like wildfire. People began asking difficult questions. Had military bases been testing secret weapons in farm fields? Were scientists conducting experiments they couldn't tell the public about? Some researchers pointed to strange magnetic readings near fresh circles. Others noticed that electronic equipment failed inside certain formations. Circle spotters formed tight communities across England and beyond. These dedicated watchers spent nights in fields with cameras and measuring tools. They raced to document new formations before anyone could disturb them. Their detailed photographs and measurements became evidence in heated debates. Many circle spotters insisted they had witnessed formations appear within minutes. They described seeing lights in the sky just before discovering new patterns. Some claimed the wheat inside genuine circles showed cellular changes impossible to fake. The stems bent but didn't break, they said. Seeds grew differently when planted. Government agencies stayed mostly silent about these claims. This silence fed more suspicion. Why wouldn't officials investigate reports of unknown technology creating perfect geometric patterns overnight? The lack of formal studies seemed suspicious to many believers. Local police often arrived quickly at new circle sites. They cordoned off areas and took photographs, but they rarely shared their findings with the public. Some witnesses reported seeing unmarked vans near fresh formations. Military personnel allegedly visited certain locations before researchers could examine them properly. The circle spotter community developed its own language and methods. They distinguished between man-made hoaxes and authentic phenomena. They created databases tracking formations across decades. Their passion transformed a simple mystery into something much more complex. These believers found comfort in their shared conviction that something extraordinary was happening in quiet farm fields. The official explanations felt inadequate against the mounting evidence they collected together. The psychology of belief took root in these communities. Members supported each other's experiences and interpretations. Skeptics became outsiders who simply couldn't understand the true significance of what was occurring. The circles represented hope that reality contained more mystery than science admitted. The global spread and contemporary crop circles. Something strange happened in the 1980s. The mysterious circles that had puzzled England for decades began appearing in fields across the world. Farmers in Canada woke to find perfect rings in their wheat. Australian ranchers discovered spiraled patterns in their crops. German agricultural workers stood speechless before geometric shapes that seemed impossible to create overnight. The circles were changing too. What started as simple rings had grown into mind-bending designs. Some stretched longer than football fields. Others showed mathematical patterns so complex that scientists needed computers to understand them. A formation in Switzerland displayed over 400 individual circles connected by straight lines. Another, in the Czech Republic, revealed a pattern that matched ancient Celtic symbols found nowhere in local history. Each country responded differently to these appearances. Japanese farmers treated the circles with reverence, believing they carried spiritual messages. Russian authorities investigated them as potential military experiments. American researchers measured electromagnetic readings and soil changes. Mexican communities held ceremonies around the formations, seeing them as gifts from their ancestors. The internet changed everything. Within hours of a new circle appearing, photographs spread across the globe. Online forums buzzed with theories and debates. Skeptics shared videos of people making circles with ropes and boards. Believers posted evidence of bent plant stems that showed no signs of mechanical damage. Camera technology improved dramatically. Satellites could now capture formations from space. Drone footage revealed details invisible from the ground. Time-lapse photography caught some circles forming in complete darkness, with no human figures visible anywhere nearby. Yet other recordings showed clear evidence of human creation. The mystery deepened with each passing year. Some formations appeared in locations impossible for humans to access without detection. Security cameras watched over certain fields. Yet circles still materialized without capturing any intruders. Scientists found plant changes that couldn't be explained by known methods of circle creation. Meanwhile, a growing community of circle makers emerged. Some admitted to creating dozens of formations as art projects. They shared techniques online and held workshops. Their work became increasingly sophisticated, matching the complexity of the unexplained circles. This made it nearly impossible to tell which formations were human-made and which remained genuine puzzles. Local economies began to shift around these mysterious appearances. Towns organized crop circle tours, hotels filled with researchers and curious visitors. Farmers charged admission fees to view formations in their fields. The phenomenon had become a global business. Yet questions persisted. How did identical symbols appear simultaneously in countries thousands of miles apart? Why did some formations show characteristics that human creators couldn't reproduce? The mystery had spread worldwide, but answers remained as distant as ever. The cultural impact and enduring mystery. The strange patterns in wheat fields had grown beyond simple farm mysteries. They began appearing on movie screens in the late 1990s. Hollywood producers saw something special in these perfect circles. Audiences gasped at aerial shots of complex designs stretching across golden fields. Books filled library shelves with theories about the circles. Some writers claimed alien visitors left these messages. Others explored the idea of Earth energy creating the patterns. Fiction novels used crop circles as doorways to other worlds. The circles became symbols of the unknown. Artists painted enormous canvases inspired by the geometric shapes. Musicians wrote songs about midnight visitors and mysterious forces. The patterns appeared on album covers and concert backdrops. Each creation added new layers to the growing legend. Television documentaries examined every detail. Scientists presented evidence about human hoaxers using ropes and boards. They showed how people could create these patterns in just one night. Yet the shows always ended with questions. What about the perfectly bent stalks, the magnetic readings, the witness accounts of strange lights? Even when Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley confessed to making hundreds of circles, believers refused to accept the simple answer. They argued that some circles remained unexplained. The confession only covered certain locations and years. What about the others? The internet exploded with crop circle communities. Photographers shared stunning images from around the world. Forums debated every new formation. Theories multiplied faster than the circles themselves. Ancient symbols, mathematical formulas, and prophetic warnings all found their way into the discussions. Tourism grew around famous crop circle sites. Visitors paid money to walk through the flattened grain. They bought postcards and souvenirs. Local shops sold books and videos. The mystery had become a business. Modern art galleries displayed crop circle photographs like sacred geometry. Fashion designers created clothing patterns based on the formations. Video games featured levels set in mysterious fields. The circles had become part of our visual language. Scientists kept explaining how humans made most circles. They demonstrated the techniques on television. They showed the tool marks and construction flaws. Yet people continued to wonder. Perhaps they wanted to believe in something beyond ordinary explanations. The circles represent our need for mystery in a world of facts and figures. They remind us that some questions feel more important than their answers. Even knowing how they form, we still find beauty in their perfect curves and complex patterns. In wheat fields around the world, new circles continue to appear each summer. Cameras capture them from above. Visitors come to walk their paths. And somewhere in the space between evidence and wonder, the mystery lives on.